Hey guys, this is Alex with CritGames.com, and today I am talking to you about something that is very near and dear to my heart, which is being a very good GM. Now, I love playing all sorts of role-playing games. I grew up early high school. I've done everything from got my start in Dungeons and Dragons. I used to play Bubblegum Crisis with a bunch of kids in high school during lunch break. That game was crazy. And then when I opened my own store back up in Alaska before, it's not around anymore, changed it, developed a new company now, CritGames.com. Back when I had my old store up at Kingdom, I used to run tons of games all the time, from everything from Pathfinder, and of course I did D&D 4.0, which is just, for the game, totally tanked and came out with Essentials, and I gave up on D&D. But I run a lot of Pathfinder, and I also loved running a lot of creative games they had that came out, like Rogue Trader. Awesome game, totally underrated, amazing game. And then I had a lot of other friends who ran stuff like the Seven Rings, and we just ran a lot of stuff at my store. But I was running games, 4 or 5 days a week, 4 or 5 hours at a time, and I learned how to GM really well. The biggest thing that I would tell you in this first lesson, because there's going to be several of them, is this is the GM's greatest challenge of all time, okay? And that is making the game awesome. Duh, that's a dumb rule. Of course it should be awesome. No, but you don't get it. You just don't get it. When I say the game needs to be awesome, I mean it really needs to be awesome for your other players. Your rules, the game's rules, your ideas and expectations of the storyline and the plot and all of that other stuff have to go out the freaking window. But man, I spent so many hours writing material and I came up with really cool monsters. I know. But here's the thing. All disappointment in the galaxy comes from expectations that aren't met. You get disappointed. You tell your friend you're going to be somewhere. They say they're going to be somewhere. They don't show up. You get disappointed because you expected them to be there. Expectations can be the killer of your game. Oh, as a GM, before the game comes up, you totally get pumped because you've written content, you've written monsters, you've written all this other stuff, and the players take a different turn, and they go somewhere else, and the game changes, and you're left pissed off because somebody didn't figure out your puzzle, or they're not taking a character seriously, or you spent a couple hours thinking of this key component that was going to take the plot in this totally cool avenue, and your players are just freaking, being idiots and not doing anything, or they're just going the totally opposite direction. Or the one guy that needed to stay alive that was going to reveal whatever kills you. I ran into it one time where I thought of the coolest idea. There was going to be a clue to the next event in the game, and it was going to be inside of a small box that was inside of a candle. I thought this would be cool. It'd be a thick wax candle. There would be a box inside the candle, and the players would have to learn to melt the candle down to get to the box to unravel the clue. So I left them all sorts of clues, like the light will reveal all things, and fire, and all. I tried to give them tons of clues. Well, none of them had context, and so they all just kind of walked into the candle shop, heard the riddle, got confused, left without even buying a candle. And I was like, get the freaking candle and light it and melt it and get the box, But we ended up getting into a big argument that night because the storyline went south and everything sucked, and they were angry because I didn't give enough clues, and I was upset because blah, 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 blah. That was in the early days. As a GM, your characters have one goal: to kill things, to get experience, to level up, and to get more items to make them better and to level up. You as a GM, you have one thing that you are trying to do, and that's make sure everybody has a blast. Your storyline could go off without a hitch. Your items could be discovered. Your monsters could be epic. And if people didn't have fun, it was a waste of time. Some nights that I've played, I went in totally cavalier, let things run, let be improvised, and it ended up being the most fun anybody ever had. And I guarantee you, as a GM, hearing that a player has had more fun playing in your game than they have ever played before is so much better than them saying, Oh man, your content and the writing of your characters is so much deep and different than other games. Trust me, no one cares about your monsters as much as you do. Nobody cares about your clues and traps and storylines and plot lines and discoveries as much as you do. The other players don't care. They care about their player, their loot, their experience, and whether or not they got to use their green flame blade or gloves of blah 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 spider climbing, who cares? And so you kind of have to step back and try and figure out how you can make sure that people have a blast. Once I started doing that, I started having people tell me, Alex, this was the most fun I have ever had in a game. I had older vets say, oh man, we used to play all the time, and I had this GM, and he was always complaining about blah, blah, and he was always rules lawyering, and he was always demanding this, that, and this other thing. And they'd say, so glad that you don't do that. I had younger kids say, oh man, I heard about this game, this role-playing stuff, and I thought it would be stupid, but it's really, really cool. When are we going to go again? I loved doing that stuff. So, rule number one, before I go on to any other stuff, like putting your setting, creating your characters, and other things like that, is make sure your other players have a blast. Because in the end, that's all that matters. What happened in the story, the loot, and all of that stuff isn't going to be remembered as long as people are going to remember whether or not they had a blast playing with you. So, how do you make sure that they have a blast? That's what I'm going to go into next. Are you ready? All right, let's go over to video number 2. I'm going to be talking about setting. Oh, the setting is so important. All right, hit you up.